Hey there, Max. Hope you're doing well and everything's going good this week. Looking forward to getting you in next week. This is your video lesson for today. There are 3 things I want to talk about. I'll go down the list. If you have questions at the end or want me to anything more specific, just let me know and I'll shoot you over a message. Cool. So you mentioned in your text that you wanted me to go over chord transitions and how to get better at switching. So let's go ahead and do that. Couple drills you can do for chord transitions, and my favorite one is lift, hold, and place. Because when you're switching chords, you don't want to kind of land them in this particular style of guitar, like a strumming or picking style guitar. You don't want to be like landing stuff like one finger at a time. You kind of have a sloppy sound. So what you can do is simply take like an easy C chord, right? Just to practice this technique. Strum right there, right? And get everything down. When I switch chords, I gotta get everything down at the same time. So what you can do to get better at this technique is you strum the chord once, you lift the fingers off and try to keep that shape in midair. So see right here, I am playing a C chord and I'm actually doing a C chord up in the up off the fretboard. I'm gonna hold that up there. So I'm gonna put my fingers down one more time to show you C. One strum, lift, hold. You can see how you can hold it for you. See if you can keep those fingers from doing like all kinds of wonky stuff. It's not so easy. So hold it there and then drop. See if you can drop them all at the same time. Lift, hold, so you can keep them there. And then see if you can drop them all at the same time. There's another variation on this exercise because we have to ultimately work on the chord transitions themselves. So what you can do is you strum the C chord, you lift and hold it, and rather than drop the chord right away, what you do is you're going to transition to the next chord. So right here I've transitioned to the G chord and I'm holding it in position. And you can even transition back, you go like that, right? So you can see no strings, right? So here and I switch to a G chord. Because the chord switch happens in midair, it doesn't happen when you land. For some reason, people think that like the chord switch happens like when your fingers start going down on the strings. The actual transition to the chord shape that you're going to happens up in the air. So it's like as the motion. So it's not all of a sudden magically bam, the chord appears on the other side. You strum the chord once, you switch all the fingers up in the air, right? And then they land. So if I'm switching fast, right? Like so I'll do C and G really fast. I'm in G before you even get there, right? If I had to wait to get and drop each one in place, it'll sound kind of clunky. Or my strum would always be off. I would always be behind the beat. C chord, lift, hold, and then transition to that right there. And everybody's got to go. So when you're switching chords, every millisecond counts. And there's no time to be wasted for going C, and then we go to G. If this finger goes in the wrong direction, you got to bring it back. So see, a lot of times this will happen. These fingers will drop and then they'll come back up again. You got to go right to where they're supposed to be. So everybody goes to the correct direction. There's a Three Stooges action where everyone's bumping into each other. Strum, switch into the G, and then drop, right? Practice that back and forth. Practice with a bunch of different kinds of chords. This is the unglamorous part of playing guitar is if you want to clean up your technique, you got to practice technique. This is how it works. Cool, man. I wish I was always just playing songs, but I mean, my practice, it looks a lot like tedious. All right, next thing, number 2, is getting your bar chords under control. So I think I gave you the stretching drill the curling drill a few lessons ago. If I haven't, remind me next week and I'll bring that one up. Another great exercise you can do to strengthen your bars, or get your bars cleaner, more accurate, is a rolling exercise. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna straighten out my first finger, okay? I got that spacer in between my second and my pointer finger right here because I don't want them to bunch up, okay? If they're bunching up, if you see this happening right here, that means that the first finger's not strong enough and then this finger's coming over here to help push down the strings for you. So you go ahead and place that bar where a good place to start is the 5th fret, okay? And what you're gonna do, you're gonna try to fret one string at a time with your bar, right? It's gonna look like this, right? There's the first string. I'm gonna roll the bar a little bit more. I got that second string. Well, I'm going to flatten out here. I have to hyperextend my middle of my finger to get that third string to ring. Keep it rolling. G, A, and E string, right? And you'll see it looks like a seesaw like this right here. Now, are you going to end up playing a guitar like that? No, not necessarily, unless you're doing something like that, right? But you're going to keep that bar, and you want to get one string at a time to ring out. So if I play this first string right here, if I play the second string, it's muted. If I roll here, see if I can do this. Hey, that's kind of buzzy, right? Keep rolling. Right, so roll that bar back and forth. Don't be a hero and try to do it all afternoon. Just do it like, alternate it with the stretching exercise like this, or the curling exercise, right? Do that a couple of times, do the rolling one. And then the next thing I want you to practice is a tune that uses a bar chord in there for practice and for your chord transitions. And I'm thinking Lean On Me by Bill Withers would be a good one for you. C, F, C, G, C, nothing crazy. But the cool thing is that there's a picking part in there that we can emulate the piano with. We'll talk about that next time. So we'll get a little bit of melody in our chord transitions. So cool, so the song is... good enough that you can pick that out right there. But what you can do is when you do the C chord like this, right? It's all about little things to help. If you watch the C chord here, if I switch to the F, my thumb drops, right? My thumb drops, allows my first finger to shoot forward and get straight, right? And, oops, wrong chord. Think of minor. It was a minor 4 chord. As we were talking about last time with David and, what song is that? Escapes me right now. Oh god, it's the Jeff Buckley. No, not Jeff Buckley. Jeff Buckley covered it. Anyway, I'll remember it after I hang up close the video out. So see, if I switch to the F right here, if you watch, C, and I switch to the F, notice my third finger stays put. There you go, right there. So the reason why I want to give this to you is that anytime you can have a common finger between two chords, take it, because it'll help with your chord transitions. It's kind of like having something to push off of and get to the next chord. So that's another important thing to think about. It happens from like, say, like a G chord to a D chord, how that third finger stays in place, how we talked about that before. And that helps you kind of give you something to kind of pivot off of. So it's a pivot finger, basically, is what it is. C, pivot off your third finger, get that thumb, first finger straightens out, and then back down to C, and then we're going to G, and then back to C. Now watch my hand turn like this, like that. We'll talk about that next time. That's another trick that we can do to help transition chords smoother, is using the arm to move from one chord to the next rather than just thinking of it as a finger movement. But we'll continue that conversation next week. All right, man, as usual, if you have a question for me or want me to look at anything that we talked about today or anything else, feel free to shoot a video over and I'll give my 2 cents. All right, man, see you next week.